by the Waltham Community Access Corporation MAC channel for a future telecast. Is there anyone else in this chamber who is recording the meeting? Would you please identify yourself?
James Bertillis, 19 Gorham Street.
James Kellis, 19 Gorham Street. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Colleen Bradley MacArthur. George A. Darcy III. Karen Dunn. John T. Durkin.
Present.
Kathy Ann Harris.
Present.
Paul S. Cass.
Present.
Joseph D. LaCava. Anthony LaFosse.
Present.
Randall J. LaFlame.
Present.
John J. McLaughlin. Patrick J. O'Brien.
Present.
Jonathan Tass.
Present.
Thomas M. Stanton.
Present.
Carlos A. Patel.
Present.
Kathleen B. McMillan.
Present.
10 members present.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, would you all please rise?
Almighty God, we ask thy guidance in all our deliberations.
Amen.
Please join the council president in reciting the pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Our flag is over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing while Councilor Durkee gives a moment of silence for the veterans. He is a veteran.
I ask for a moment of silence and to remember all troops serving all around the world and in our country.
Thank you, Councilor. Please be seated. This is a special meeting of the Waltham City Council, which has been called subject to City Council Rule 88 for the purpose of gathering additional information regarding an amendment to Chapter 12 of the Waltham General Ordinances entitled Housing Rights Notification. My name is Kathleen McMillan, and as the President of the Waltham City Council, I will preside at this meeting. On the stage, we have Assistant City Clerk Carol Wilson, City Clerk Joe Vazard, and Executive Assistant Kathy May Leodini. They will be supporting us in the conduct of this meeting. To my right, the councilors who are present this evening in the chamber, starting on my right. Councilor at Large and State Representative Tom Stanley, Councilor Ward 9, Jonathan Pass, Councilor Ward 6, Sean Durkee, Council Vice President and Councilor from Ward 4, John McLaughlin.
John J. McLaughlin.
Present.
Councilor from Ward 8, Kathy Ann Harris. Councilor at Large, Carlos Vidal. Councilor from Ward 1, Anthony LaFosse. Councilor from Ward 7, Paul Cass. Councilor at Large, Randy LeBlanc. And Councilor at Large, Patrick O'Brien. That is your City Council. Now, I'm going to give some specific rules for tonight's meeting. Honestly, I don't think any of us expected this kind of a crowd. So I'm going to give you some specific rules that we're going to have to abide by. Number one, the specific reason for tonight's meeting is to listen, for us up in this table, to listen to Waltham citizens. Councilors will hear testimony from the public regarding this proposed ordinance. No other matters are in order tonight. If you wish to testify, please form a line at the lectern when it's time. Please state your name and legal address for the record and sign the log. We need to have a list of the people who testified before us for public record. I made a decision. Let me ask one question before I continue. How many of you people are planning on speaking? Would you raise your hands? Okay, thank you. In that case, I'm going to allow between 3 and 5 minutes, with the total amount being 5 minutes per person at the lectern, Our assistant city clerk has a timesheet, and she will be keeping the time, and she'll give a 1-minute warning when your time is up. That way, I think we'll be able to move right through this this is a citizens input hearing for the public. Number 2, at the end of 5 minutes, the clerk and I will let you know you have 20 seconds remaining to finish your thoughts. Number 3, all testimony being put forward in writing from those not present will be turned into the city clerk, or can be, to be entered into the record. So in the essence of time, statements will not be read tonight or into the record this evening. All statements provided must have contact information so that we can confirm directly that the statements were received and entered. Number 5, I will emphasize that this is not a question and answer session. It is a citizens input hearing to hear from you and the will of the people from this city of Waltham. Its purpose is for the Waltham City Councilors to listen and hear from our community regarding the proposed housing rights notification ordinance. And I'm going to ask, when you come up for your testimony, if you would please relegate and dedicate your comments to that ordinance so that we understand what it is you're telling us that we need to know. So with that, I'm going to begin with the first speaker. We have someone who's going to come up and speak. And when you come, please, good evening. Please sign your name and legal address for the record, and you may begin your testimony.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Bikini, just like the bathing suit. I own property at 214 Newton Street. I have several Spanish people, tenants, and I own properties elsewhere. I've never had a problem, but this notification is difficult for me. If you change the rules down, you're going to change them forever for property owners everywhere, but specifically to Waltham. It's going to change the residential world and the commercial world together. The problems, finance, with income uncertain, the tenants living there pay the rent that homeowners finance, property owners finance their properties with. If that income is not certain, then it will be difficult, near impossible to get financing. The next item is going to be valuation of property. The property values will decrease because of slower transactions, lower sale prices, because of potentially uncertain income. The next item will be maintenance. If revenue is down, maintenance probably will be first to go. Properties will slowly deteriorate. And it's a problem already to keep up with inflation. But if income is sketchy, it will be worse much quicker. Property taxes. If landlords don't have money, they can't pay taxes. They might for a couple of years, but over time, the properties will deteriorate. There will be difficulty in financing, valuations will be down, and it will be a disaster. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will over time. I'm going to leave you with this. If you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he'll eat forever. Isaac Newton, a scientist, said, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. If income is down, the reaction will be manifest in the property, value and maintenance. You cannot encourage irresponsibility. America was created on responsibility. If you really want to help the immigrant, teach them English. Link it to many things. But if they can speak English, they will have better lives, not a free place to stay. I have a 98-year-old German woman. She came here in 1956 with 2 children and a husband. She speaks beautiful English. Beautiful English. If you want to help the immigrant, or anybody, make sure they can speak English. There's plenty of resources out there. This notification thing is crazy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honestly, I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your passion for on both sides of this issue, but I'm going to ask if you would refrain from any of the clapping or yelling or whatever in order that we can get through the citizens that we're hearing. Thank you. We just justified. Is there somebody next who would like to testify? Please come to the lectern. Please write your name and thank you.
Meeting councilors and fellow citizens of Waltham. My name is Ray. I've been living in Bleachery in Waltham for 3 years. I came here tonight to talk about my experience with eviction. 14 years ago, as a university freshman, I met Teresa. We immediately felt a strong connection, and we felt quickly and deeply in love. I moved in with Teresa, and we met each other's friends and family. Every Sunday, we would visit the zoo, paid our rent on time every month, even though we struggled financially, missing meals and taking out debt to pay for groceries. We looked forward to a time when she finished her master's in social work and I finished my bachelor's in engineering, when things wouldn't be so difficult. We dreamed of what our family would look like. Teresa, secret to me, named our children. In the summer of 2011, almost 13 years ago, when our landlord picked up our rent check for July, she handed me an envelope. We'd been given 1 month's notice for non-lease renewal of our lease. We were faced with 3 options: find a new place to live, withdraw from school and move in with our families, or homelessness. We tried to find a new place. I was young, and in my fear and the vulnerability of the moment, I fell for a housing scam. When we realized what had happened, it was too late to begin looking again. Teresa spiraled into despair when faced with needing to withdraw from her program and disrupt our plans for the future. That night, Teresa took her life. I was in the room with her, on the phone with emergency services, powerless to save her as she slipped away. Earlier this week, I read the text of this ordinance. I couldn't help but think how that month might have gone differently. Councilors, I urge you to pass this ordinance. While many evictions do not have such ugly outcomes, I'm sure no one's experience is pretty. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Raleigh Burlingame.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next speaker, please.
I do have one question I have. Is this just affecting people who don't pay their rent? Get evicted? That's how I read it.
I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
Well, in that case, that would have affected that person. It sounds like you think. I'm just curious, when did it become the
Can I
role?
ask your name?
Oh,
Please,
sorry.
your name and
Tim
address.
Murphy, 11 Lower Catawba.
Thank you.
I'm just curious when it became the role of local government to tell an entire industry that their customers didn't have to pay. Especially when the two parties have a written contract. That just makes no sense to me. I always thought it was the role of government to settle disputes between two parties. So the two parties can come to an agreement legally and in civilized fashion. I'm not an attorney, but perhaps we should get some legal minds to weigh in on this, because is this, I'm not even sure if this is like legal. It just doesn't make any sense to me that if I have a contract that the local government can say, my customers don't have to pay. It just makes no sense to me. I've never heard of such a thing. And I don't really understand how can you just single out one industry. I mean, if you have the power to do such a thing, does that mean you have the power to shut any industry down from their customers paying? You guys have the power to say that the citizens of Waltham don't have to pay for their food anymore. Go to the grocery store, get whatever you want. I don't know why, I'm really asking questions I know you can't answer, but where does the line get drawn? Do you have the power to say that we don't have to pay our mortgages, gasoline, whatever? I mean, I don't know how you came up with this idea. Pick on us. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We have expenses, obviously. We have a lot of expenses. One of them is our real estate tax. That's one of my biggest ones. I mean, if you're telling my customers they don't have to pay, how do you expect me to pay the real estate tax, which I pay a lot of? Real estate tax here on apartment buildings and stuff is pretty high. And I'm not complaining about it, because actually, the city gives great services. No doubt about it. I'm very happy with all the services. And we pay for it, and I think it's a good value. Just like my apartment's a good value. I have enough money, because my tenants pay, to give people a good apartment. I maintain them. I heat them. If you have a problem, I fix them. I don't know if you people are aware, but I am, because I kind of grew up in that area when there was rent control, Somerville, Cambridge. You couldn't find a good apartment back then, because the rents were so low, no one had the money to fix them. And I don't know if that's what you're really looking for too in the city of Waltham. In my experience as a landlord, if I have a really lousy apartment, I'm not going to get a good tenant. If you have a lot of bad apartments in the city, you're not going to have good tenants coming in. Something to think about. I'm obviously against this ordinance. And another one of our big bills too, which could have a big effect, is the mortgages. I mean, if we can't pay our mortgages, the banks start failing. Is that what you want? These are all things that could probably happen. And I know that most people are still going to pay their rent. But I know that in Somerville, Cambridge, where this is happening now, they're actually advertising to people that they don't have to pay their rent anymore. I mean, this can start to come out, that somebody who might be willing to pay their rent might say, oh, I don't have to pay my rent anymore? And it could be a snowball effect. So I really think you're kind of threatening disaster here. I really think this is a really bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
George Vidal, III.
Present.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Hammond. I live at 210 Lake Street. I'm here to add my voice to those who are in support of this amendment to the housing ordinance. I think, when I read the amendment to the ordinance, my understanding was that it was to make it so that people who are being evicted basically get a piece of paper which lists their resources, That piece of paper has to be given to them 30 days before they are evicted from their house. And that piece of paper and that list of resources is provided by the state of Waltham. That's it. That seems like a very simple ask, and it's clear to me that not everyone here read that amendment. What this is doing is potentially helping people who are about to lose their home. I don't know if anyone here has ever been given an eviction notice. I'm lucky enough I haven't either. But I can only imagine how traumatic that is. And I appreciate people who are sharing their stories about that today. I think, to me, this is like a no-brainer. We could potentially help people, and the ask is to print out a piece of paper or attach a PDF to an electronic email. It's very simple. So I was surprised that we needed to have a hearing about this, but obviously I'm here now realizing I didn't think there'd be any opposition. Obviously I'm realizing now there is. So I just want to add my name in support of this amendment. It seems very simple. I know other cities do it. As far as I know, they didn't have a housing collapse. We live in a housing crisis right now. It's very difficult to find housing. It's very expensive to find housing. Let's do literally the bare minimum to help people who are in crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask the next person?
Good evening, councilors. I want to try to keep it short and quick, but do you mind if I pass this backwards from pre-signing?
That's fine with me, please do. And would you please give us your name and legal address? Thank you.
My name is Preston Gatilius. I live at 309 Newton Street. I've been a tenant on the south side of Waltham for the last 9 years. Fortunately, I haven't had any bad experiences at this point with an eviction. But I do think that what's been outlined so far in the written document is very clear. This is a simple measure to help you be notified of what rights and resources they already have made available to them through a variety of groups. Now, the importance of those rights isn't just to prevent somebody from being evicted. It's also sometimes going to be assistance to make payments, which can help both the landlords and the tenants. The tenants might not have to move. Tenants may be able to make ends meet better, and beyond that, it can also help us prevent more homelessness in the city, which is already an increasing problem. Preventing that, which is extremely expensive in the city, a lot of resources and time are put into helping those people, and honestly, it's something that we can do more for, and this is one of those ways that we can do a little bit more for tenants throughout the city, just notifying of what rights and resources they have. There's many people that may not be, proficient with the web or able to find resources for whatever reasons, and those people really use the assistance of a notification that outlines it clearly. And since the city is outlining it and creating the document, there's not much burden on the landlords. So I just want to speak in support of the notification ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker to speak. Step up to the lectern.
My name is Marceline Isom. I live at 205 Newton Street. I'm here to support the housing rights ordinance, notification ordinance modeled after other ordinances that have already passed in Somerville, Cambridge, and Boston. This ordinance is also vital information for all of the Waltham residents. It will provide access to all the programs and services that are available in our community in the times of need. So if Waltham needs this information to prevent evictions and to avoid high costs, not only to the landlords, but also bad records on the tenants themselves. So if you guys could please, if you could please help us pass this law, it would be very much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Clerk Azari, Council President Miniman, other distinguished members and staff of the Waltham City Council. My name is Guy Sergi. The address is 465 Waverly Oaks Road. And I'm here to raise concerns and speak in opposition of the proposed ordinance. The proposed ordinance will require landlords to produce an unknown form to tenants twice during the tenancy. This ordinance is redundant as both the Massachusetts judicial system and state government already require landlords to produce forms including much of the same information to tenants already. Adopting this ordinance will be costly and time-consuming for the city's government, particularly the housing division. The city should not incur additional cost, manpower, and risk for the operation and enforcement of this ordinance when the end result is redundant and duplicative with presently existing judicial system and state government requirements. Specifically, the Chief Justice of the Massachusetts District Court has recently adopted the Fourth Amendment standing order on June 5th, 2023, very recent, which actually went into effect yesterday. Among other summary process rule changes requiring landlords to be responsible to serve notice of the first case management conference, the new court rules continue the responsibility of landlords serving upon tenants the 11-page form, including information regarding rental assistance programs, trial court rules, standing orders, or emergency or administrative orders, and federal regulations on residential evictions. The form includes identifying financial assistance programs such as RAFT, a Residential Assistance for Families in Transition program. It includes web links and citations to summary process rules and regs. This is already required by landlords to be served. Additionally, through modifications to our state sanitary code as codified in 105 CMR 410, as of June 9th, 2023, landlords are now required to produce to tenants a form entitled Notice of Occupants' Legal Rights and Responsibilities, which includes information regarding protection against legal retaliation, rights to safe and healthy housing, rights to a hearing before local boards of health, rights for withholding rent payments, web links to mass legal help and legal tactic resources, and links to free legal advice, among other information. This is already a requirement for landlords to serve for the state requirements. At best, this proposed ordinance is redundant and unnecessarily burdensome on the city housing division as well as to landlords, particularly smaller landlords. At worst, this proposed ordinance is conflicting and confounding upon the judicial system where Judge Carlo and other judges in both Waltham District Court and Housing Court are now going to be required to distinguish between city notices, court-required notices, and state-required notices. The proposed ordinance is inconsistent with what the other three cities have presently passed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This proposed ordinance states that the, and I quote, form or forms prepared by the city of Waltham and/or other community partners designated by the city, end quote. Waltham would be the very first city in the Commonwealth to potentially have a non-governmental entity, likely a tenants advocacy group, prepare this form to be sent out on behalf of the city. This creates the problem of undermining the asserted purpose of the ordinance of promoting housing stability, as developers and mom-and-pop aspiring landlords will likely avoid building in the city and potentially chills development of future available housing in Waltham. I shouldn't have to elaborate on the fairness and bias concerns regarding how a tenancy advocacy organization prepare the notice forms. For these reasons, I believe the ordinance is unnecessarily duplicative, invites confusion in the judicial system, likely chills future housing availability in the city, and is burdensome on the city's government. Thank you.
Please. I will repeat what I asked you to do about 10 minutes ago. We'll never get through this citizens input hearing if we continue that kind of passionate behavior. And we all understand it, believe me, we do. Could I ask the next speaker to come up, please?
Good evening. My name is Molly Tucker. I'm a resident of 309 Union Street and probably have been for the past 8 years. I've been very fortunate in the apartment that I rented to have a landlord that communicates with me, a landlord that is very responsive. That's not going to be the case for everybody else, though. That's not something that everyone else has experienced. And in order to create a more standard experience for all renters, I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask landlords to be offering a notice, as previously mentioned. With other notices already required, we haven't seen financial impacts from that, from simply notifying renters of their rights. If we could do that for the state or other levels, there's no reason why there would be a disparate financial impact for the city of Waltham to do that. And simply letting people know what their rights are, as the document lines out, is a pretty straightforward and common sense thing. I wholeheartedly support it, and hope that it passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can have the next speaker, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Emma Zumas. I live at 32 Cutter Street. I am here in support of the Housing Rights Notification Ordinance, and I'm here to speak to you in my professional role as a public health professional. In public health, we believe that housing is a basic human need, and I know that housing is a social determinant of health. Housing instability is related to many poor health outcomes, especially for children. And in public health, we also know that it all starts with education, with knowledge, with information. And that's what this ordinance is really about. To me, this is essentially a PSA, right, a public safety announcement. We're educating tenants with this ordinance about the rights that they already have. This is not creating any new rights or resources. It's just outlining rights and resources that already exist. However, there might be a number of people who don't know about them, right? And if you don't know about them, you can't access them or use them, even if they are already there. And so one thing that's been really important in my mind about this particular ordinance is the timing piece, right? And so currently we, writ large, have to give these rights and resources to folks at 30 days before eviction. But now this puts this at the beginning of the process. This puts it at the time when someone is entering this agreement with their landlord. And that is a really important step, because when you get it at 30 days before eviction, that might be too late. You're already in crisis. If we can provide this information at the outset, that might avoid some really key disasters. Also, this ordinance states that the information be in the tenant's preferred language. Given our diverse community, again, this is a really key piece to include. And this goes back to education, right? What good is information if I can't understand what's being communicated to me? And so my reading of this ordinance is that by providing information earlier and in the appropriate language, fewer evictions will be initiated. If I was a tenant struggling to pay rent, this ordinance would let me know what resources and supports exist to help me pay for rent before it escalates and becomes a crisis. If I was a landlord with a tenant who was struggling to pay rent, this would help me help the tenant know that they can access financial support to be able to continue paying their rent. This seems like a good thing for everybody, landlords and tenants. And as a member of this community who has watched many families over the years I've lived here have to leave Waltham because of the current housing crisis we're experiencing, I ask that our elected officials take steps to improve housing stability in Waltham. In public health, we also know that there's no one solution that's going to fix everything. There's no magic bullet, right? And so, especially for a complex issue like housing stability, we need to have multiple tools in our tool belt to try to address this. And this can be one of those tools that we have at our disposal in Waltham. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Emily Superia. I live at 308 Lake Street. Thank you to all these awesome Walthamites for coming out tonight and giving input. Thank you to the counselors and to our clerks and to everyone for hosting tonight. I'm here today to speak in favor of the Housing Rights Notification Ordinance. I happen to be a renter. I've been a renter since I left my parents' house at age 18. 50% of Waltham residents are renters, so there's a whole lot of us here tonight, I would guess. I have a great relationship with my landlord. I'm fortunate in that sense. I have a doorbell that you can ring if you come by this summer, please do. I have a garden that I tend. We are your renters. We're really proud to live in Waltham. We love living in Waltham. We rent, and we're really happy to be here. I'm going to speak right down to earth today. As I said, I'm here to speak in support of the Housing Rights Notification Ordinance. We're just talking about notification, some pieces of paper. It's a public service announcement, as Emma said, without guitars. Know your rights. The City of Waltham is responsible to all of its residents, and with the Housing Rights Notification Ordinance, must guarantee that Waltham residents be notified of their rights and resources at least 30 days prior to removal from their homes. The City of Waltham must enact policies that provide tenants who are facing eviction with information, just information, on community resources for rental assistance and legal advocacy. Must mandate that landlords include a copy of local eviction resources and programs to the tenants at the time of servicing a notice of quit. Again, just information, just paper. These notices must be provided in the primary language of the resident. We heard some discussion about language earlier. We're not asking anyone else to learn any other languages. We're just asking that you provide photocopied pieces of paper that someone else has already translated. The Housing Rights Notification Ordinance accomplishes these modest goals. These are modest goals. 50% of Waltham are renters. 50% of your residents are renters. Please, we love living here. And we are also your tax base. 50% of us are renters. We are just asking for our rights. We have a right to a roof over our head. And when any of us, for any circumstance, any reason, are unable to meet financial obligations, we have a right to understand, to be delivered those legal rights. That's all. Please, please pass this Housing Rights Tenants Notification Ordinance. Your renters love living here. We love it here. All we want to know is what we can do if a problem happens. We just want that piece of paper, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, could I ask the next speaker, please, if you would approach the lectern?
My name is Carl Sincara, 74 South Street, Waltham. I'm here speaking in opposition to this proposed ordinance. Make no mistake about it. This proposed ordinance is a first step to implementing rent control, which has had a disastrous results every time it has existed. They're not going to call it rent control, they're going to call it rent stabilization. This is a part of a much broader agenda of regulating and controlling the ownership of private property, particularly rental property. The overarching narrative is landlords should be subjected to the most onerous requirements and suffocating legal restrictions, hoping to punish a property owner to the point where the cost to evict a tenant for any reason is not feasible. Any landlord will work out with a tenant any arrangement to help him stay in to avoid the court system and to stay in the apartment. No one wants to be part of this court system and the legal system, and they will work out any type of agreements. I have and everybody else has. The result of this ordinance is to weaponize a tenant by encouraging a tenant to seek, quote, legal aid. That's the end game here, where these lawyers will use the punishing laws in Massachusetts to put a landlord through hell, costing thousands of dollars unless the landlord settles with a tenant to avoid the one-sided legal system. As far as like aid to tenants who owe rent, I had one tenant this year during COVID who came to me and said, the city is going to give me 3 months rent. Can you give me a letter saying I'm behind on my rent? I said, you're not behind on your rent. But they knew that these services were available. So I went along with it. She got 3 months free rent. Came back to me 2 more times with saying, knowing that she didn't have to pay rent and that there were some places where I could get the rent. Now, this person would be weaponized to know that if that didn't happen, she could not pay the rent, and she would be perfectly, liable to go to a legal aid, and then you're involved in this system where you can forget it. It'll cost you $10,000 to get rid of a bad tenant. I had one tenant, I gave them a rent increase, and they said, the law says that you can't raise our rent. I said, really? Who told you that? Well, it was some of the people who were in this room today are the ones that advise tenants to not pay their rent. I had another 2 tenants, one that wasn't paying their rent because they wanted me to evict the tenant upstairs. The tenant upstairs wasn't paying their rent because they wanted me to evict the tenant downstairs. Unfortunately, I couldn't get rid of either one of them, and so eventually one of the tenants died, so I did get the rent from both of them. But I had to work out an agreement. It took a year to get paid the back rent that was owed. If this ordinance becomes law, tenants will be weaponized, and no landlord in their right mind will rent to potential clients of legal services. This is already happening in Waltham. No one wants to be a landlord. When I was growing up in Waltham, I used to walk to the Whittemore School in South Junior, and I used to go by 2 and 4 family houses, 3 family houses. All of them were rental units. Those units are gone now. I was just driving down Hall Street, and I saw nothing but condominiums because nobody wants to be a landlord. I have one friend of mine who sold their house on Robin Street because the tenant said that they weren't going to pay. He went to his brother and sister and said, you know what, this is what they said. They said, sell the house. They sold the house, a 4-family house. They tore it down, and they built condominiums on there, going for $800,000. Okay? So the social media in Waltham vilifies landlords. I inherited my parents' and grandparents' rental property. My children want no part of being a landlord. My brothers, who were part owners with it, they didn't want to be landlords either. They said they want to, quote, sleep at night. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm in my 70s, and eventually I'm going to have to sell. But I care about my tenants and want them to be housing secure. But if rent control in any of its forms is enacted in Waltham, I can assure you that, like so many others, I won't have the stomach to deal with more regulation and potential conflicts. Now, given a choice...
I'm sorry. Mr. Sinclair, time is up. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Laura Cannon. I live at 578 Lexington Street. I am a 3rd-generation Walthamite, and I am also an attorney with my law office at 685 Main Street. I represent a number of property owners and a number of landlords, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room realize Massachusetts has probably one of the strictest landlord-tenant laws in the country. The requirements that they put on landlords, the opportunities that they give to tenants if something goes wrong, and as the previous speaker noted, the state has already passed a very similar statute which will be applied by the court system. There is no need for the city of Waltham to get involved with this. Our city, I can be proud to say, has a number of incredible resources for tenants, for people in need. We have a number of services. We have Watch. Waltham District Court itself has a mediation division that helps tenants get through the process. We have BC Legal Aid. The city of Waltham does not need to add another office, another department, another bureaucracy to monitoring landlords' business. The city tax dollars can go to a lot better use than hiring a person to make sure that every time a tenant is served, that notice goes with the notice to quit. I'm very proud of our city. I understand a number of communities adjacent to us have adopted similar ordinances, but we're not them. We're Waltham. We take very good care of our citizens, and I urge you not to support this change. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for your testimony. It's 7:20, and several people have told me that they are here for and against this ordinance. So after this speaker, I am going to ask for a 2-minute recess, and prior to that 2-minute recess, I'm going to ask for a show of hands of those who are for the ordinance and those who are against. So be prepared for that. I'm going to allow the speaker to speak, then I'm going to look for the show of hands, and we will do a count for that show of hands, after which I will continue the citizens' input hearing. Please, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Jane Parr. I live at 303 Maple Street. I have a degree in clinical psychology, and I'm a former captain from the Marine Corps. I first moved to the Boston area in 2017 when I left the Marine Corps, and I found my way to Waltham in 2018. Since that time, I've worked to make this town my home, and I've been a tenant renting from landlords since 2012, since I got out of college, and I continued that when I got here. In both my time in psychology and as a leader of Marines, there's been one key to success, especially in difficult situations, and that is communication. Clear, concise, and in a language that everyone can understand. This amendment from Chapter 12 is the city's opportunity to ensure the much-needed unification in an immensely difficult situation, and it must be passed into law. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to hold on for just 1 second. So, the time now is 7:25. And we may be going here for quite a long time. So what I'm going to do now is ask for a show of hands, and we will do a count between the clerks and the council. But I'm asking the 2 clerks to do the count. And the people in the hall, we will ask, how many people are down here in favor of this ordinance? Please raise one hand. One. I didn't ask you to stand. One hand. I don't think signs are hands. Two people, thank you, in support. Now can I ask those people, hands only, one hand, only one, for those who are down here who are not supporting this ordinance, would you put your hands up, please? I only need hands, no voices. support, 158 are not in support. I beg your pardon, I'm sorry, I'm conducting a meeting. Thank you. So what I'm going to say now is we will take a 1-minute break. If anybody wishes to leave, I think now is a good time. If you want to stay, we want you to stay. We want you to testify, please do. But I wanted to give you that option, that opportunity, so we will continue now with more testimony. Next speaker, please.
Madam President, I have a question for you. Is it okay if everybody in my group testifies, or we are going to have a limit and I have to do a synthesis of everybody's testimonies?
This is for every individual, Genevieve, whoever wishes.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I will be last.
I'm sorry?
I will be doing my remarks last.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Noah Risley.
I'm sorry?
My name is Noah Risley.
Yes.
I'll just take this. I rent at 247.
Oh, I'm sorry, ask your address. Thank you.
I rent at 247 South Street, and I also happen to be the president of the student body at Brandeis University. And so as a result, I represent a lot of first-time renters, first-time leasees, and there's a lot of anxiety and fear that comes with that process. A lot of our university resources are devoted to finding resources and giving people opportunity to get them into their first house, getting them into off-campus housing. And I have 2 students who are not able to be here today, and I want to read 2 of their short statements.
Just a minute, please. I'm sorry, could I ask the people who are out in the hall if you would please stop talking out of courtesy to the people who are speaking, and thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So the first statement is from my friend David Kahn. He wrote, "Being evicted is scary. Being evicted without knowing your rights and the resources you have at your disposal to help you through such a great crisis is even scarier. I'm a first-time leasee, and I didn't even know my rights as a tenant until local advocacy organizations brought them to my attention. If I hadn't learned that important information and I were to be evicted in the future, I would be beside myself. All of this is to say, it is imperative that the council passes the housing rights notification ordinance." The next statement is from Lauren Davis, who has volunteered with and worked for the Rights Immigration Institute in Waltham for over 4 years. I have volunteered in the community for the Rights Immigration Institute, working with the vulnerable population in Waltham for nearly 4 years. A constant throughout this period has been the confusion and fear I've seen people experience regarding housing. The need for this ordinance is immense, and it would make a huge difference in the immigrant community. As a representative for over 3,000 college students, I urge you, for people who experience immense fear and anxiety when they're renting their first house, please pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hi, my legal name is Alyssa Adamson, and I go by Alex. I live at 233 Charles Street. I'm a renter. As it's been said, 50% of Waltham is renters. As from what I hear from most other renters, is our rent goes up every year. Sometimes your salary doesn't go up. It's not good for anybody to be in a situation in which you are housing precarious. We know that this will make Waltham overall a bad place to have a bunch of people that are losing their housing. I wish that this was advocating rent stabilization. I wish it was advocating some kind of, ceiling on what landlords can do. It doesn't ask any of those things. When I first read about this, I almost thought it was ridiculous because it's getting the landlord to print out a single piece of paper to give you information of rights that you already have. So the fact that we're having a debate about this is a little bit shocking to me, because we should hopefully believe that housing is a human right. And we should hopefully understand that we live in one of the most expensive cities and one of the most expensive states, and our wages many times become stagnant. So I'm just really surprised at this debate about finding out about rights that you already have. Because who are the people that are not going to use those rights? People that feel ashamed, people with language barriers, people who are in precarious situations. So we know that the more wealth and education and privilege you have, you know how to seek all the resources that you need. So by not passing this ordinance, you're putting the burden on the most precarious people. And that makes our city worse. And that's not why I came to live in Waltham. So I really urge everybody to vote in favor of this very basic ordinance, which just requires giving information that people should already have to their tenants. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Hello, my name is Alex Beaton, 67 Lexington Street, Waltham, Mass. I'm born and raised Waltham. I've lived my entire life in Waltham with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 years. That being said, Waltham is an amazing city. It provides great amenities. And the way it does that is through its taxes. And the way that you receive those taxes are mostly through your landlords and your businesses. That being said, I'm here in opposition of this movement. As you may notice, I'm a younger individual. I did my part, put together my down payment, and actually was able to, with a friend, afford a 2-family in Waltham. Without the additional income of rent, that 2-family is no longer affordable. What you're asking for is a legal notice. Any sort of legal notice can be used against me and others like me in order to keep the tenant in place and to keep them safe from having to pay rent. Doesn't keep me safe from having to pay my mortgage. If I don't receive rent, I can't pay my mortgage. I feel like landlords are here today in droves, but they're afraid of coming up and speaking because they don't want to be outed as a bad person. I'm all for having affordable housing, not affordable housing, but housing that you're willing to end up paying for at a reasonable cost. We're in a beautiful city, we're in a beautiful area. Because of that, you're paying a higher rent. You pay for the amenities you get, the same as I pay for my mortgage, for my property. What I believe this is going to end up doing is it's not going to undermine Avalon Properties or the Edison. It's going to undermine me and others like me, who, again, require this income to move forward. I'm fully employed. I work 50, 60, 70 hours a week depending on what's going on in my project. That being said, I get to, and I maintain my property with the little time I have in my spare time, after work, on weekends, and if I gotta take a day off, I've gotta take a day off. I prioritize my tenants' livelihoods. I make sure that they're living in a beautiful home and that they have modern amenities. I don't let my property go to waste. But if I don't receive this rent, there's no saying how well I can maintain my property. From now on, if something like this goes in place and tenants start using it against us as an act to keep from having to pay rent, as an additional step, an additional legal notice, if I make a mistake or any others make a mistake and this is used against us and now we're going months without collecting our rent, that just means that my qualifications for a tenant gotta be higher. I can't give someone with a 600 credit score the benefit of the doubt, hoping that they're going to pay me if I'm scared to death about whether or not I'm going to be able to pay my mortgage. I understand being evicted is scary, but bankruptcy is scarier to me. I'm too young to go under, and I think I represent a lot of people here who own a lot of properties who, if they're put in that position, they'd rather sell and move from Waltham. If they sell and move from Waltham, the property value goes down, your taxes and your revenue goes down. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Rachel President. I live at 50 Adams Street, Waltham, and I am a renter. And I am one of the lucky ones who I also get along with my landlord. And we have an open communication. And when COVID hit, she was the first one to tell me about the RAC program and say, hey, if you need any help. That's not the case for the many, many people I've helped through Waltham Mutual Aid, whose landlords didn't give them that information.
Excuse me, Rachel.
I'm happy to say
You're speaking to the council. This is a citizen input hearing for us. Thank you.
It wasn't the case for the many people that we were helping fill out the reams of paperwork. That I naively thought, you know, folks would just put it in and then go get their money and then they would be able to stay in their housing. A lot of people refused to sign it. A lot of people refused to accept the fund because they somehow felt it was shady, or like people didn't deserve it, or they didn't need it, or they didn't trust. And so I just want you to imagine on your worst day, I like lose my keys and it could be right in front of me and I can't find them. All we're asking is for some compassion on your worst day. You are finding out that you may not have a roof over your head. You are finding out that you might have to sleep in your car. You are finding out that you might have to quit your job and move somewhere else. On your worst day, your executive functioning goes down when you're panicked. My executive functioning is going down right now because I don't like talking in front of all these people. Give someone a piece of paper. Give them a lifeline. We're just asking for some compassion on their worst day. No one's trying to stiff you out of money. I can't tell you how many people's mortgages I must have paid in my renter's life. I am happy to pay my rent. I like it. I'm happy to contribute to the tax base through my landlords paying up their property taxes because I know they're not paying it all on their own. They take a lot of money from me. I am a teacher. I have taught kids who have been evicted. I've tried to teach them English. Can you imagine how easy it is to teach someone crying because they're afraid they don't have anywhere to sleep? Sure, I can teach you English, but you're so traumatized, that gift isn't going to be any good for you. You don't have any way to access it because you don't know where you're sleeping tonight. So we can give fishes and we can have all of these like thoughts about and anecdotes about people stiffing us, but I'm just asking for compassion on someone's worst day. That's it.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Have you all signed you have. Thank you so much, Rachel. Please, yes, thank you.
Good evening. Okay, sorry. My name is Adriana Scholz. I live at 21 Harding Avenue, and I wasn't really planning on speaking, but I feel like I have to, or I really want to now. I'm an immigrant myself. I came here in 1999 from Germany. I could barely speak the language when I moved here, but I studied hard, I worked hard, I rented for a long time. I had to pay my rent. There were many situations where I thought I couldn't pay my rent, but as I said, I worked very hard. I've been here now for almost 25 years. I own one rental property. I own my own house, one rental property that I didn't get any money from anybody for pay for it. I paid for it with my hard work. So now, that said, if my one rental property, I'm a single mom, 3 kids, if my tenant is not paying my rent, I can probably carry it for a few months and then I wouldn't be able to pay my mortgage. So I think a lot of people think here about landlords, the big landlords, right, that own many, many properties. So if they have one tenant that doesn't pay their rent, they're probably going to be fine because they have multiple units. I have one rental unit. If my tenant doesn't pay the rent, I will not pay my mortgage. And guess what? During COVID, when my tenant didn't pay the rent, and I helped her out and I carried, my mortgage company did not care that I didn't get my rent. And I called them and I cried because I did have no income during COVID. I'm self-employed and they did not care that I did not get my rent and I almost lost my rental property or I would have had to sell it. So I just want people, and I feel very bad for anyone in here, I never gave an eviction notice and I would never have that in my heart to give an eviction notice. But if it comes down to that my property is going to be foreclosed on because my tenant is not paying the rent, what other choices do I really have than to get a new tenant because I need to pay my rent. I don't want to have a foreclosure. As I said, I'm an immigrant. I came here, I worked my entire time I've been here. I work very hard every day, and you just have to pay what you need to pay. And if you're in a hardship, I know so many landlords. I'm actually a local realtor too. I have talked to so many landlords. I have not met one landlord that was heartless, and they're probably around. I'm not saying they're not, but typically any landlord tries to help their tenants because, again, now who wants to go through a court system? Who has time for that? Who wants to spend the money? And not many people that I know of would want to go through that and spend the money and then in the end might lose. And again, I've been in this business for 24 years. I've met so far, I think, one landlord that had to evict somebody, and I'm sure, again, there's landlords out there, I'm not saying they're not, and it was just a situation where the landlord was heartbroken. It was not something they took lightly. So again, I had nothing prepared. I don't want to go on for too long, but I felt like saying, because so many people, everybody's looking here, it's like, oh, the big landlords. There's small landlords out there. As I said, I'm a single mom. If my tenant doesn't pay the rent for more than 3 months, I'm going to be in trouble. My mortgage company will not care if I can pay the mortgage, and people just have to understand that. And I'm going to finish now, but again, I feel my heart breaks to people that actually got an eviction notice, because that's not something that I wish on anyone. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Daniel Kessler, 147 Ellison Park. So, when I heard about this meeting, I thought it would be over, I hadn't read the ordinance yet, I thought it would be over some comprehensive housing law. Imagine my surprise when I show up to see the most well-attended town meeting I've ever been to over an ordinance requiring landlords to give their tenants a piece of paper, their rights and resources on it. Unlike many people who have come up speaking in favor of this ordinance, I actually have experience as a landlord. I have rented properties. Landlords enjoy a tremendous power imbalance over their tenants in almost every way. And yes, I know quite a few landlords like to style themselves the victims because big bad government imposes so many burdensome responsibilities on them. But let's be real. A lot of people have said they do this in their spare time. It's a largely passive income. They're not at risk of being kicked out of their homes. And landlords as a whole in the Boston area have been making a tidy profit off of the lack of affordable housing. Is it really so terribly burdensome to deliver a piece of paper with your tenants' rights and risk them exercising rights or accessing resources they already have? It seems to me that there are a lot of people in here who are allergic to anything that might shift the balance of power back in the other direction. And I've heard a lot of people sharing anecdotes about badly behaved tenants, tenants who wouldn't pay their rent, tenants who are exploiting the system, or hypothetical future tenants who might do this if they found out about their rights. But even if you think of yourself as a good landlord, there are plenty out there who aren't. And the law needs to be in place to protect tenants who are the more vulnerable class of people here, from landlords that abuse the power of owning a home and having the ability to turn someone out. So, yes, I am in favor of landlords needing to give their tenants a simple piece of paper if they want to evict them so their tenants can know their rights.
How's everyone doing? Raphael Bibbo, 239 Hardy Pond Road. I'm part of the community. I was born and raised in Waltham, and for a long time I was actually a terrible tenant. I've forfeited more security deposits than I'd be willing to admit. Now that I've gotten a little bit older, I start to understand about the responsibilities and the importance in life. With that said, I don't know if it's a good idea for the city council to be getting involved in a private transaction done between two parties on a mutual agreement between those parties. And as far as I know, every time I knew when I screwed up or I signed a lease, I knew when that lease was up and the responsibilities I had. Now, another thing, I'm not a landlord now, but I might have to be. I built a house and I got caught off sides on a bad economy and a market that changed and interest rates rising. So now I'm sitting on a house that I have to sell and I may have to rent. And I know everyone here is talking about how it's just one little piece of paper, but I think we all know there's kind of a bigger agenda and chatter going on behind closed doors that are leading towards rent control and possible moratoriums on evictions and things like that. So I don't see how the city council can get involved in something that could possibly force me into default. And what I mean by that is I'm on an adjustable mortgage. So that means when that adjustable kicks in, the mortgage rate will go to prime plus 2, which will be 10.5. At that point, the math no longer checks out and I'd be forced into bankruptcy. So respectfully, I just want to know how the city council would like to prepare the future landlords that get forced into that situation. Almost comes off as a joke, but maybe salaries of the city council members could be put in a potential fund that could be used to then compensate landlords that have been unable to evict a tenant for reasons not of their own. Another thing on a personal note, I think that if anyone on the city council has ever dealt with evictions or been evicted before, they should recuse themselves. That being said, it's a possible conflict of interest with the direction of the conversation where this is going. Also being said, I want to thank everyone for showing up. I wish that we had more community meetings like this more often, and it's good to see everyone get together. But there's a bigger thing that happens here too. And not to go too deep into this, because everyone's talking about big government and big banks and things like that. They're the ones that's going to win. Like, if I get foreclosed on as a 40-year-old guy who just grew up in Waltham, a bank is going to take the property. And then government just gets bigger, the banks get bigger, and it's no longer a matter between community and council. So, with that said, I'm opposed. Thank you very much.
Hello, City Councilors. My name is Candace Holman, and I reside at 194 College Farm Road in Waltham. And I am here in support of the tenants ordinance. I am a newcomer to Waltham for 16, 17 years now. I guess that's a newcomer, not every place, but I'm also a homeowner in Lakeview. And I come from a humble background, but I know that I benefited a lot from programs and privileges that I'm able to get because I'm a white woman. Most of the people who spoke against this bill are white and have many privileges that the people that are for this bill don't have. So I want to just point that out so everybody knows that we're talking about here and not kind of avoid that topic. The topic is of privilege. So as I mentioned, I came from humble background and had my own, I benefited from programs as I was growing up as well, including things like college scholarships, which they don't have anymore. Things like money for tuition, that doesn't exist. You have to borrow and go into debt. And the times are different now, and people are paying a lot more money for things that we didn't have to pay as much for before. It's harder to just get by. And I am also a volunteer for Watch. And I wanted to mention that my experience with Watch, I'm a case manager for people who are looking for help. None of these people know the programs and options that are available to them. This is what this bill is about. This is what this ordinance is about, rather. This is about giving people the information that they need to get back on their feet, to get their kids healthy again so that they can go back to work and earn the money that they need to pay their back rent, basically. What are they going to do in the meantime? They need to be able to live somewhere, nurse sick kids back to health, or nurse a sick spouse back to health, and then get themselves back on their feet. This ordinance is just about giving them the information that they need to get back on their feet. I'm sure all of us can remember a time in our lives when we needed that. And I'm so grateful to Ms. Genevieve Tavera, who is behind this bill and has worked really, really hard to get this here. And I just can't understand why city councilors haven't moved more quickly on this. Why is this such a big problem to deliver information to people who are in need, and to make sure that they know what their rights are legally, and what kind of programs and opportunities are available to them if they find themselves down and out. One of those circumstances of being down and out is living paycheck to paycheck, and then having your landlord increase your rent by $300 next month. So where do you get that $300 from? I don't know where they think this $300 is going to come from someone who's living on paycheck to paycheck. But if they called watch, we could tell them. Anyways, so I see that my time is just about up. I wanted to mention a couple of points. None of this is about rent control or loss of rental income. This is actually more about how are you going to get your rental income from your tenants when they don't have the money. What kind of programs are in place for them to pay you that money? That's doesn't really align. And I just want to make one point. I think most city councilors are very interested in preventing homelessness in Waltham. This is one of the kind of pieces of paper that you can give someone that will help prevent homelessness. And I just have one question, which I hope can be answered later on. And I did want to just kind of want to know, why is it taking this long for this bill, this ordinance, to get to this point? And how are we going to make sure that it doesn't drop off the table?
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next person. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Tom Benavides. I live at 308 River Street, Unit 3, and thank you all for hosting the citizen input hearing. I am here speaking as a part of Waltham Inclusive Neighborhoods, as a volunteer at Watch CDC, as an ally of the Waltham Community Leadership Group, and as a member of Waltham Mutual Aid, and as a young person who didn't have the privilege of buying a house 20 years ago, and the average cost was $200,000. And on that subject, it needs to be emphasized that we are in a housing crisis. Waltham's greedy habit of bringing more and more workers to our city without building enough homes to house them all has caused a housing shortage, and with the average two-family home in Waltham now rents out for $3,000. And with dire straits like these, we have so many families every week which are having to choose between feeding themselves or paying rent, between paying the electricity bill or paying rent. And it only takes one surprise medical bill, one family tragedy, one lost job for families to fall behind on rent. These are very ordinary circumstances, and they often lead to eviction. So many of our neighbors are living like this, on the edge. But there are so many resources available to help families in tight situations such as these. Watch CDC provides all manner of advocacy and assistance to help folks looking for jobs or housing assistance. And Waltham Mutual Aid is always ready to provide financial aid to anyone in our community who needs it, no questions asked. But we cannot help people if they do not know about us. And it is so heartbreaking to know that there are families in Waltham who could make their house payment and avoid losing their home if only they knew that our resources existed. I have encountered families in Waltham who found out about us the day after they became homeless, rather than the day before. It is tragic and it is unnecessary. And as an aside, I wrote this yesterday, this morning, I had an interaction just like that once again. This is incredibly common and incredibly ordinary. So please support the Housing Rights Notification Ordinance. It is so simple. The only thing landlords are required to do is provide a one-page copy of rights and resources which already exist to their tenants upon the start of a lease and then at least 30 days prior to an eviction. This is so incredibly undemanding. It won't slow down the eviction process for landlords because landlords are already required to provide 30 days notice prior to an eviction in the state of Massachusetts. It won't require any significant effort because the landlord will already be provided the fact sheet by the city of Waltham and local nonprofits. And most importantly, renters will know about the resources available to them to make their payments and avoid eviction before it's too late. Not only will this spare residents from the difficulties of homelessness, it will also spare landlords the thousands of dollars which an average eviction costs in Massachusetts due to filing fees, legal fees, and lost rent. The benefits of this law are massive, while the effort involved is so remarkably small. So please support the housing rights notification ordinance. So many here have expressed fears about how they're going to be able to afford when their tenants aren't paying rent. This is how tenants pay rent. Whenever they lose their job, whenever they have a medical bill that takes so much of their money, and they don't have money to pay for rent, this one page will tell the tenants where they can get assistance, where they can get resources to pay their rent, and avoid the eviction process altogether. It is a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. I've lived in Waltham for some time now, and I have a great...
Could I ask, could you have your name and address, please?
Manuel Candida, 46 Washington Avenue, Waltham,
Thank you.
453. And I have a great landlord, but I think a lot of people, a lot of tenants don't have that same luxury. And this is about, it's not about, the landlords losing money because the information the tenants are getting that is not there, which is rightfully there. They should know, they should be having the information. It's about, avoiding consequences, avoiding, difficult times for people that is living on those times. Because you don't want people to become homeless because they don't know something. They don't know the next step, for example. They don't know what to do. A lot of people go through those things. I've been there myself. And, if I can help by walking on the street with a piece of paper and tell every tenant in Waltham or every person that I see, hey, listen, you can do this before you get evicted to your house, I would do that. But I think this is a right for everybody to know. Everybody that lives in Waltham. Waltham is a great city. I love Waltham. I've been living here for 5 years. I think Waltham is great going out of there. But people should know their rights, especially tenants. It's not about making money. It's not about losing money. If you buy a house, three-family house, and you're expecting your tenants to pay your mortgage, to pay your house bill until the house is paid off, buy one family house. You don't have to worry about that. If you buy a three-family house, like this great man said, with what did he say? He said, with consequences, with action comes reactions. You buy a three-family house, you have to expect something to happen. But this is not about you making money or losing money. It's about informing people of options. People need to know their options. You don't want to throw people on the street because they don't know what to do. People need to know what to do next before they end up on the street. We're trying to eradicate, for lack of a better way to put it, homelessness in Waltham, or everywhere for like, the way I see it. But in Waltham, I live in Waltham, I think Waltham is a great city. We don't want to have in-house people. We don't want to have people that have nowhere to go, If we give the landlords this opportunity to, if you guys pass this law for landlord not to inform the tenants, people are going to live in the street. And what is the results of that? We're going to have homeless people, more homeless people. We don't want that. We want to stop homelessness. We want to have community that is helpful for everybody. Tenants, landlords, yes, I do understand what landlords are coming from, yes, I do. But you have to look that the one holding the short end of the stick are the tenants. They are the ones that's going through a hard time. They're the ones that doesn't know what to do. So this committee right now is about informing the tenants of what to do next, to give them the opportunity to take the next step before they end up on the street. And that's pretty much 1 minute. Thank you, Ms. Ladies. That's what I can say. If you please pass this law in favor of informing the tenants about all of this, that would be very much appreciated because we need it. We need to be together.
Thank you for your testimony, everybody. Thank you. Good evening.
I'm Heather May. I live at 41 Mokina Avenue here in Waltham. I'm a homeowner. I lived here for 10 years and I love Waltham. It's my hometown now. And my son will be able to say he's a born and raised Walthamite. So the city is incredibly important to me. I've heard misinformation tonight, I've heard assumptions, and I've heard a lot of fallacies. And I stand here in full support of this amendment. I think that one of the things we need to realize is that we are dealing with this amendment now. We all know why. Because COVID hit and things went nuts. And people didn't have incomes. They didn't have steady incomes. COVID brought to light just how huge the gaps between resources are. And those gaps are huge. And now what we're trying to do as communities is to come together and say, we want to make sure that our entire community is taken care of. The 50% that own and the 50% that rent. Everybody deserves to be taken care of by our city's elected officials. Tenants' rights are important because they are the most vulnerable. And whether or not the law favors them really has nothing to do with this particular ordinance. This is a piece of paper that says, call these people, they might be able to help you pay your rent. Non-payment of rent is not up for discussion here. Nobody is saying, oh, just don't pay your rent. In fact, I've never heard anyone say that in my entire life. I feel like there is an assumption that with the business of being a landlord, there is no inherent risk. And we all know that that is not true. There is a risk that comes with every business, especially when you are in essence a small business owner. My husband is a small business owner, and I absolutely understand the risk. Because when you talk about bankruptcy, I've been through bankruptcy. I could easily go through that again. I will not survive something like homelessness. My kid, who's 9, wouldn't survive something like homelessness. Being without a roof over your head. That's a basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Shelter, down at the bottom. It's basic, right? And this is a piece of paper that says we agree and we want to make sure that you have access to the things that you need to stay in your home. It costs somewhere around $40,000 a year to the government to support someone who is chronically homeless. It costs nothing to give them a piece of paper that will help them pay their rent. It means that you don't have to have a hard discussion. You don't have to say, I'm so sorry to evict you, but I have to have that money. it means you can give them a piece of paper and say you have 30 days to figure it out, and here's some resources for you, and then perhaps you can keep that tenant that you love so much. I keep thinking about my grandfather tonight, who was a farmer, the original small business, and coming to him in high school, having done something that I thought was awful, but a lot of people had told me to do. It was the right thing to do, but it felt bad. And he said to me, if it feels bad, there's probably some part of it that is. And it's probably the part that is affecting the other person. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And I hope that we have the strength and the courage to pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Dan Sari. I live at 40 Copley Ave. I guess I thought I was here to say that we should give people a piece of paper that tells them what their rights are when they start an eviction, but if the landlords seem to think it's about expropriating all private property, and I do support that. I feel like these guys have way too much time on their hands. They really can't handle these houses that they have spare laying around apparently. During COVID, a lot of people were missing rent, and we gave them money for that, right? And these programs were only available if you knew how to seize them. These programs gave landlords money that allowed them to pay their mortgages. This has been said before, it's accurate, it's true, and it helps everyone. I don't know why there's so much pushback against this. And during that time, I was looking to see where these evictions were being filed, and so the city council knows it's pretty much just Garden Crest. Like, there's no small landlords filing evictions. Very, very, very few of them. They are working it out with people. You know, by and large, you just have one really shitty landlord, Garden Crest. We all know about it. They're causing rats all over our city. People are living in squalor just because this corporate landlord wants to squeeze every penny out of people, and then when it's done with them, it tries to kick them out unceremoniously. And this will help balance the equation so that the rents come down in Garden Crest, people can afford to stay there, and they are not being made homeless, and then the rest of our collective problems to having to help take care of them. Additionally, this notification ordinance will help with some major issues with places like Garden Crest where the quality of life is just terrible, where landlords are not taking care of their properties. You know, they come up and they serve an eviction notice or something like, yeah, you got rats in your place? You should have been talking about that a long time ago, and no, you should not have been paying rent. You don't live with rats. The landlord takes care of it. Simple as that. It's a health and safety violation. And we all know that it's going on in these places. It's happening at the bigger places too. There's all kinds of fees that are being charged that are not legal. And this is all money that's being zapped out of people's pockets to these corporate landlords pulled out of Waltham, sent elsewhere in the country. And the people who are living in Waltham will have less money to spend on basic things like eating out on Moody Street. It hurts everyone to have bad actors like this in the landlords. I really don't understand the landlord pushback on this. I am a socialist. This is not the bill I would have written, but it helps everyone. The only case where something like this could really hurt a small landlord is if, like, imagine if there was some scenario where you had like a real bad actor landlord, right? And he's got like a tenant who's maybe undocumented. And that tenant falls a little behind on rent because maybe he lost his job, looking for a new one, he's good for it in a few months, needs some time to get back on his feet so he doesn't become homeless. What if the landlord comes with a Waltham cop and tries to intimidate him into vacating the home? I think something like that happened with a city councilor here. And I think that we should think real carefully about the role of landlords in our city council who would vote against such a basic tenant protection. I know the city council voted to discipline that cop, and I know you lost to the police union and then didn't change the contract so that you wouldn't lose that fight again. Stick up for people. We voted Paul Brasco out.
Mr. Sari, please stick with the topic.
The topic at hand is eviction notices, and this regards an eviction. An eviction by a bad actor and the Waltham PD. And this has a racial component, and we should be aware of that. This has a racial component where the white homeowning population of Waltham wants to be able to treat their tenants however they want without any kind of pushback. And I know you're not dumb enough to let that slide. I know you're going to stick up for racial equality here in Waltham. We saw the Black Lives Matter movement, and we heard that you all supported it. So I encourage you to pass this quickly.
Hi, good evening. My name is Catherine White. I live at 408 River Street, where my landlords have the misfortune of having me as a tenant. I want to preface this. I hope everybody. I want to preface this by saying, first of all, it's not really the landlords that are the problem or the tenants, it's the banks. And I don't mean that in an antagonistic way. I mean that we just need more practical solutions. We all, as we go through life, we all have to wait. I had to wait to grow up. We all have to wait, basically. And it's odd to me that it just seems like the banks never have to wait. And the thing is, it's even more odd, and by the way, I'm in support of the notification ordinance. It's even more odd to me that I don't have more money. But when a person who has money goes to the bank to get their money out, the bank doesn't have it. And even for me. And that is because the bank has taken their money and put it somewhere else and they're collecting interest and whatnot on it. So we have to wait all the time for the bank. Why doesn't the bank sometimes have to wait for us? And again, I don't mean that in an angry or antagonistic way. You just need a practical solution. I think what would be helpful is if there was some kind of ordinance or something you could ask the court for, is if the landlord, it's clear that this person is not a tenant parasite. They're just going through a situation or whatever. Could the court somehow could you get an order to wait, whereas the bank could just hold the mortgage payments, just 3 months, or whatever, just an order to wait or something. We all have to wait sometimes. It just seems like sometimes the bank should have to wait too. And then the other thing I want to say is, I don't know. Waltham seems to be on the cusp of a huge opportunity. When I look at real estate quotes and articles, everything talks about how wonderful it's going to be in Waltham and how all these people are going to come to Waltham and there's different pieces of land for sale where we're going to build pharma and we're going to build buildings and rich people are going to come live here, no offense. And there's going to be all this economic growth. With that economic growth and all these new people who have money to spend, you need people to make coffee for the people who are spending money on coffee. You need people to work in the gardens for the people who are buying the houses. You need CNAs these people will probably bring their elderly relatives here and they will want to put them in a nursing home. You need CNAs to take care of these people. You need nurses to take care of these people. In order to support the growth that Waltham is forecast to have, you need a healthy and solid working class. And it seems to me this little piece of paper would help the working class of Waltham. And not even just the working class. The working class isn't just the people who have a job here and live here. There are people who have elderly relatives who live here, and maybe they don't work, but maybe their grandkid goes to their house to study after school. It's all connected. So I just think anything that you can do to help the working population of Waltham going forward is really going to help Waltham with the growth and help you in getting a good, solid worker base to support the growth that is forecast. And it would, and then also as other cities raise rents and have, all the things that go along with that, people are going to get pushed out of those cities, and they're going to be deciding where to go to, and maybe where to get their next job. And a city that has a reputation for being a good place for working class people to live is going to have better employees, and it's going to have happier citizens who are going to have less stress in their lives, because when they go out to eat, they're going to have a good experience. When someone comes to mow their lawn, they're going to have a good relationship with that person. They're going to like the CNAs at the nursing home because they're happy and they make their relatives happy. And that's basically what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Carla Ortega.
I'm sorry?
My name is Carla Ortega. I'm I'm the housing case manager from Watch.
And where do you live, please?
24 Crescent Street, Waltham.
That's the Watch, you live at Watch?
No,
I need your address. Where do you live, please?
116 Charles Street in Waltham.
In Waltham, thank you.
Yes. I work for Watch as a case manager. This year and the past year, have spoken with hundreds of people, hundreds of families that have come to us for help. I think, and I heard here a lot of misinformation on what this bill or this ordinance is calling for. We're just trying to pass a way to help people to pay the rent. We're not against, people not paying the rent or leaving their house or hurting the landlord not to, get their money. I think they don't understand really what this ordinance stands by, and it's just offering a resource for people to access the money. Most of the people that come to Watch, they are low-income people. From these 50% people that were 50% of the population in Waltham that are renters, many of them are low-income people. I don't know how many of you, are here that are low-income, but I talked to many of them, and when they face, when they get sick or they lose their job, or single parents that they cannot, take care of their children because of some reason they have to miss work and they get, laid off. Those are the people that come to us requesting help to pay the rent. I don't know how many of you that are supposed or in charge of passing this law have read really what the rental assistance stand for or how we help the people, how this program works. And I don't even think the landlords know the type of help that they can get. Many landlords come to us requesting help to pay to get the rent paid from their tenants. So I just, I'm just here trying to, I'm more here asking for you to really read what is it the rental assistance provides and how this helps the people, especially the low income. I don't think, many people that really need it are here. We saw so many landlords, but I do talk to that people, and I know how much they struggle. And if we just have this very piece of information that just tells the rights. It's nothing, we're not encouraging people not to pay the rent. We're just informing people how to access this money to pay the rent. So thank you, and I'm sorry, English is not my first language, as you can tell. But
you did very well.
I just,
you did very well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Gustavo Ramirez, and I am here to help my mother. Her name is Sandra Ramirez. We live in Garden Crest. My mom is single mother and is raising my brother Alan and me. We are here to ask Mr. Dookie and all of you city leaders to pass the housing notification ordinance for people like us that need this important information. Waltham has many programs that we do not know about. We were looking to find GV at Watch when we had a need. But many of my friends do not know about Watch. Please, city
Can you spell it for me?
C-O-U-N-C.
Counselors.
We need the housing rate notification ordinance. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, City Councilors. My name is Zach Bowner, 27 Clements Road, and let me start off by saying that I am genuinely pissed off that I have to show up and take time out of my night to come here and expose the other landlords in this town. Because this is such a simple ordinance with such a simple task that we are asking our landlords and property owners to do. It is ridiculous that it has taken us hours to sit here and discuss this. I'm Zach Bowner, 27 Clements Road. I'm a landlord in an owner-occupied building. My tenants live at 25 Clements Road, which is attached to my dwelling. And just let me tell you how I see it. So my tenants are also my neighbors. They live in the same house that I live in. And quite frankly, if it ever got to the point where I had to evict someone, which thank God I have not, I would want them to have all of the information in their power to, go wherever they need to go or do whatever they need to do to land on their feet and end up in a safe place with good housing afterwards. To me, on top of that, what we're talking about is giving a piece of paper. I don't know how many of you know that when you try and evict someone, you have to give them legally, by state law, a 30-day notice anyway. So how much harder is it really to include another sheet of paper, letting people know what their rights are and what their resources are in this community at their disposal? I really don't see how it's that hard, especially for me, where my tenants are my neighbors, they live with me, they're my friends, I see them every day, and I want to make sure that they have the right to a good, safe, healthy life as well. And it's ridiculous what I've heard from some of the other landlords here tonight. Let me remind you of another thing. Being a landlord is not a right, it's a job. It's a job that you have to freaking do. And if, I'm sorry, but especially when your job is providing safe, habitable shelter to other people, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that job. And quite frankly, if you are too lazy to give people a notice informing them of their rights before you kick them out of their shelter, you do not deserve to be a landlord in my city. In my city. It's ridiculous. And really, that's all I have to say. I think all the other landlords came up here, they're either lying to you, they have something to hide, or they're freaking lazy. And their laziness borders on negligence for their job. Imagine if I showed up to work tomorrow and was like, oh, hey boss, I'm sorry, but I can't print out a piece of paper and hand it to someone. Do you think you wouldn't get fired that very second? Do you? I don't think so. And so I'm here today in loud support of the housing rights notification law as a landlord in an owner-occupied unit in Waltham. And I encourage all of you city councilors to vote for this ordinance. And quite frankly, if you don't, you've lost my vote and potentially even my respect as a human being as well. Thank you.
I live 12 here. And it's now the landlord, the COVID of the COVID is nothing. When I pay my rent, the landlord said me didn't pay rent exactly the month. I am going for the city. I am go wash. The city say me go, they wash. The wash say me go for the city, help you. I am working. I am sad. Why I am sad? The landlord finish the COVID. The landlord say me, you need to pay 300 more rent. I said, why I pay 300 more rent? My apartment is no good. The toilet is broken. The tap is broken. The water is never helping. I am working for my apartment. I am go for Home Depot. I'm shopping for the machine. I am working. It's now the landlord, nothing help me. But he said me up your rent. Please, city, help for the people. Too much people need a help. You know what happened for the people? It's scared for to speak only to speak one in Spanish. I am trying my English, a little bit English, but I talk. I have 2 kids. I pay for the program for my kids, the YMCA. I am working. But too much expensive for the rent. Please, city, help for the people. I don't stay in my house sleeping. Every time I am at work, every day. My kids stay in the before school and the after school. Sometimes the people not working, but I am working. Everybody, they consult sometimes looking me, I am working over there. For my kids, my job, please help. I don't know why supposed to say, give the money for the wash. Wash don't have the money. The wash send me go for the city. I pay for my electricity, for everything. Thank you so much for help. I'm sorry for my English, but I try. I never go to school, never. My English only for listen the people talking. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good afternoon. My name is Stefania Rivera. I am Waltham resident. I live at 1079 Main Street. I am a single mother, a 4-year-old son. I am here to ask to pass the housing right notification ordinance for people like me who need this vital information. Waltham has many programs and services that people do know about. Please, Council, we need housing right notification ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
My name is Rogelio Rubio. I live in 38 Commerce Road. I've been a work attendant for over 23 years. And over the years, I've witnessed the changes in our city, thus and the imperative need that we have for information. It's all information we need. Please, city officers, take seriously the proposed housing right notification ordinance and pass it. This law will help Guatan residents to be informed, especially in the times of need. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Rose. I live at 35 Chesterbrook Road, where I have been a homeowner since 2007. But for the 30 years prior to that, I was a renter here in Waltham. I'm not here in either of those capacities. I want to speak as a landlord. I happen to own a condo in Chicago, where some of you will be glad to hear I'll be retiring at some point. And for now, it is rented out. And I'm not sure if it's a citywide requirement. It certainly is a requirement of the condo association there, that with every lease, the tenant is given a copy of Chicago's landlord-tenant ordinance. And essentially, that is what this hearing is about. If you're going to give information to tenants, it's not changing any information, any laws. It's not, bringing socialism to Waltham or any of that stuff. It's just making people informed. And I can speak as a landlord that doesn't hurt me in any way, because it doesn't change the laws. It just empowers tenants, and it empowers landlords if we have knowledgeable tenants. So, as many people have said, what is the big deal? We are just asking for landlords to have to share information. That's it. This seems so basic. So I would urge you as a landlord and somebody who knows how hard that can be to succeed at, but I also can tell you that giving people information is not a thing that makes it hard. So please pass this, and then we can get on to the even more important task of creating additional affordable housing in Waltham. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Mick Gray. I live on Pioneer Street. I don't know how to work this. Formerly, I was homeless. I'm grateful to have my place now for 3.5 years. I lost 23 people last year, 2 in the Charles River, 1 on a park bench. I've been beaten, I've been raped, my identity is stolen. And so many people out there have no idea what their rights are, what they can do, and what's available to them. I support this ordinance. Sorry. Everybody has a right to know what they have a right to. And I just ask that you please pass this. It's so important. Many of you have not been in this situation, and I pray that you never will be. And you don't know what you're in until you're actually in it. It sucks. It's not a good thing. 23 people I lost last year, dead, due to homelessness. They could have had a place. But because they don't know their rights, they don't know what's available to them, and it's not made available to them easily, they're gone. So please, just listen to everybody tonight. Pass this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name
ask you, please. You can pass the housing rights notification ordinance. Waltham is beautiful place. Waltham is my house. I've been living here for almost 7 years ago. And I'm so sorry, everyone. My first language is Spanish. I don't speak English very well, but I try my best. So I want to tell you, I've been eviction right now. I'm going to have my trial court next Thursday. After I got restriction order against my roommate. 2 days ago, my landlord gave me eviction. She said, you need to go out and 26 days. It's so hard for me. I'm single mom. I have 4 children in Guatemala. And I'm working so hard. I need to send money for my children. I'm paying my rent every month. So I don't know why my landlord said I need to go out. Please consult. We need to get more information. It means thanks human rights. That's all. People is no trash, you throw the street, right? Thank you so much. Appreciate your attention and your help.
Good evening, my name is Helen Melvin. I live in 298 South Street. I come in here in Waltham 2008. I am a single mother for 5 kids. I'm working so hard. I'm coming with all people here 77, but outside there's a lot of people, they need help. And please, I appreciate it if you can do for all people help. I'm working 7 days. I get off today because we need to pay the rent. We're not coming here to say we need free rent or free something. No, only they coming here to get letters when they go, the people say you can need to go out. In 2009, the landlord take away from my house because they don't have nothing to do at this time, and no one tell me what I have to do. I stay in the street 5 days, and no one help me. This is very sad, very hard. Now I'm glad that I have a job and I pay my rent, I pay my bills, I pay everything. No matter what, sometimes we get stuck to buy something for pay rent. I'm glad that people have houses to stand up. I'm glad. But everybody need help. Don't be mad with the people because all Spanish people, it's very hard to find job. A lot of people saw us like very low people, and we work very hard. We try the best. We not steal to anybody nothing. We try to get the best life in here. I'm glad that I'm here. I have 5 kids, and I show my kids we have to pay everything. Don't steal nothing for anybody. because everybody need to get it up. We don't have to see anybody low down. I'm glad these people have houses to rent to us. God bless them, they have houses. Because we coming here because we need something in our country. I'm coming for Guatemala. I coming here to help my fathers. Now they die, I have to help my kids to doing good. Maybe one day I get a house to rent to, because this is my wish. Getting up, not getting down, and not see anybody down. All the time we have to do it up to get a better life in this country. This is beautiful country. And God bless to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Antonio Sanchez. And I'm a single dad of two beautiful kids.
Excuse me, could I have your name and address, please?
Antonio Sanchez. I live in 14 Gardner Street.
What street?
Gardner.
Gardner, thank you.
And I'm a single dad of two beautiful kids. Two smart kids. Being worried about them. Been telling them to wait when they need something, when they need a toy, when they need a game, because I need to pay the rent. So today, I'm standing in front of you, leaders from Waltham, to ask you to pass the housing ordinance. Housing information is the link between one's dignity to find help and one's ability to survive in our community, where housing is so difficult to maintain. So once again, please Waltham residents deserve the housing right notification ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, city councilors. Good evening, friends and family. Because Waltham, I found a big, extensive family. The people that know me well probably said, "What are you talking about?"
Excuse me, there are some people who do not know you, so we need to know your name.
Okay, I'm coming this way, so everybody's going to get to know me a little bit more as you know me. So, my name is Genevieve Tavera. I'm a Waltham resident, and I'm the community organizer at Watch CDC. Over the last 8 years, I got to know my community. I used to hold a position in a corporate company for over 20 years. I got sick and I ended up in Waltham finding that my city was not that just city that I was bragging about. And then I ended up finding that our laws are not just, especially for people that are low income. But let's forget about the low income people for a minute. And let me focus on the law that a group of Waltham citizens, homeowners, landlords, tenants, and all other residents, and you know what I mean by other residents, right? People that they don't have homes. We drafted over 4 months a law, trying to understand the technicalities of the law, making sure that the people that they were part of this group understood every single word. So I empowered them. And you might remember over a year ago, we submitted the draft ordinance to all of you, looking for a sponsor. We found none. What are we asking for? We are asking for information of the funds, the services, and the resources that exist in our city. I'm talking about resources that we have at the federal level, at the state level, at the city level, and organizations like Watch and other 37 organizations that we help to support our community in the 3 years that we were hit by COVID. You all know, because each of you probably sent me someone my way, even our mayor. This can be much easier if everybody has this information in hand, other to wait for 4 people or 5 people that work at Watch to give this information. What is wrong with asking information? We are not asking for landlords to delay evictions, because you all know, if you have this business, that Massachusetts is a no-fault state. What that means? That you can evict your tenant just because you don't like their smile. Okay? So, I'm going to understand now that my 5 minutes are up. And I want to call to your conscience, city councilors, not to only hear to the invisible people that are not here anymore. Okay? Here also to the people that need information. The time is now. And we went through hell in order to be heard. We call us names, they stop us. I've been watching, I've been measuring the time that many of the landlords, that's why I choose to be the last one, have. Thank you very much.
So my statement basically says thank you to all of the people who came and gave testimony tonight. All the councils here were very attentive to your words and your thoughts and your ideas. And so, I am going to close this citizens' input hearing. And with that closure, I am referring the matter to the Rules and Ordinances Committee. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Councilor McLaughlin and Councilor Harris together move to adjourn the meeting this evening of the citizens' input hearing at 8:50. Good night, good evening, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.